All right, so I've just got this put into place loosely. Just trying to get an idea of what it's going to look like, and I think that looks pretty good. I got a little wobble there, but when I get this bulkhead in place there, it'll take care of that little wobble and straighten it out. So you see I've got it coming back fairly straight, and then at that first bulkhead I have them starting to flare out. No mathematical computations, I just did it so that it looked kind of good and it wasn't too sharp of a bend there. Then I'm going to take another one from the corner and come down. I'll take one from halfway down the bulkhead and come down. And I don't know if I'll need another one near the bottom a little further. But that's kind of what we're looking at there. So I'll get a few more in there. I'll get that middle bulkhead in there. And then we'll see how it goes. What I did was I got it so that I had a nice looking curve on one side. Something that looked pleasing to the eye. And then all I did was measure the distance that I had there, the distance that I had there, copy that onto the other side, copy the length of those two stringers, and it looks pretty good. I've got it just sitting here. I cut it out a bit so that it's underneath. And is that focusing? So it's going to be nice and smooth with the top, starting off there. And then I cut in a little bit on the bulkheads, just as notches to place those so that they want to stay there. And then coming all the way down. Now, one thing I'm looking at here, I've got the main one right into that 1/4-inch ply. I've got this one in a little bit. So right here it's relatively flat, whereas it curves. I might just add a little piece to the top here just to bring that curve up a bit. I'm going to see what it looks like when it's all done, and that's the only thing that I think I'll need, is just maybe from here to here, just a little bit of a wedge just to raise that up a bit so it's a nice rounded profile on the back there as well. But yeah, that's starting to take shape. I'll get that third bulkhead in place. I might do more bulkheads, but I'm going to do those 3 for now so that I can get the idea of how that goes. Because I want to get the 2 main ones on each side done so that then I can finish off this tail fin. So there's a brace comes down here to these 2 stringers, and it comes down from here and meets this other upright. So they'll meet right around here somewhere in the middle. That gives support to these 2 stringers, and that forms the shape of this tail, what it's going to look like. If you remember in the previous video, we were talking all about that. And just as I bring it out here, this is kind of what it looks like from the plans. So you can see that when it sticks in there, it's way wider than what we've got here. So this is going to be cut back to there and cut back to there. So it's going to be just slightly larger than up here. It's going to come down and just go like this. And then from there up to the back here as well. That's what I've got. These are just blocks holding up these. So the elevator and the horizontal stabilizer are 3/4 inch each, so that's 1.5 inches. And I'm giving it a little more space just to be sure that the elevator and horizontal stabilizer will fit one on top of another here, and then I can move them into place where they need to be. So you got to make sure, if I didn't have this here, this would tend to sag down a little bit because of the curve that you've got coming here, and then it's straightening out like that. So I'm just putting that in place just to make sure that these stay, what have I got, 1/4 inch and 1.5, so almost 2 inches there. All right. That's it. All right, I've got that one drying. I put some varnish on there, so that's drying. I've got this mocked up. So I've got this one coming down like that, 1/4 inch ply coming down, and the 3/4 by 1/4 stabilizers going in there. So that's kind of what that's going to look like. This is much thinner. The diagram for that one showed it quite a bit wider, like 4 inches wider, and that's only a couple inches wide. So I've narrowed that quite a bit down. Those are just mocked up. I've moved on to the hardware. The actual hardware for the elevator isn't really mentioned anywhere in the plans. I wrote elevator on there because I just had to kind of figure it out. That is the plans for the elevator hardware. The only place it's mentioned in the plans at all is in the part sheet and AT19. So that's it for elevator. So I was looking around, found it here, AT19, C-print DHCP1. There is no such print as DHCP1. It's DHTP1. And the only thing that they mentioned there for that hardware is elevator control horn attach holes. So that's all that's mentioned on this plan for the elevator. So the control horn mocks up something like this. On the plans, they have the angle, which is fairly straightforward. They've got the actual horn hanging down there. That's straightforward. They've got a little piece sitting above it. Now, this piece drawn is actually bigger than this, the mounting bracket. But when you look here, they've actually got it drawn smaller than that L bracket. The only reason I can figure to even have this shim in there, because the elevator sits right here, this bolts to the elevator, and this hangs down, and that actuates your elevator. So the only reason I can see to have this in here, you don't need it for a shim to lower it, because you can have this horn extended as long as you want. This must be a shim to take the pressure and broaden it than just this one flat surface right here. So you want it extended from that. The way they've got it shown on here, it's actually smaller than that angle, which would do absolutely nothing to take the load and broaden it over a wider area. This, the drawing of it, is actually a little bit bigger, about a 1/16 bigger all the way around than that. So I'm thinking to myself, these are wonderful plans. This doesn't make any sense at all. So what I did, I actually broadened it quite a bit. So now the load is going to be taken by a piece approximately twice the size of the actual elevator angle iron horn. So I've taken that piece and broadened it quite a bit to go on there. That's the only thing that I can think of for this shim, is to take that load and spread it across here, because in the elevator you've got your 3/16 or 3/4, you got another piece of 3/4, and then you've got a 3/4 coming in, and you've got a little shim in here as well. So at this corner you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of wood all coming together, glued and gusseted. But what this does now, it takes that load and spreads it across that entire area rather than just having it in a small area. And if you look on the plans, they've got it even covering a smaller area than the actual horn. I guess you can call this horn thing. So that's what I've done anyways. So now this will drill through to the other side, and on the other plans it shows the 2 washers with the screws coming through, the bolts coming through on the top there. And on the bottom I've got this shim to take the force and put it over a broader area, and the 2 holes that would come from the top down to mount that. That's what I did anyways. There's going to be holes in here. It shows 3 holes there. I'm imagining that's for however you want, how much pressure or how much travel it's going to have. Those are probably options, which one you put it in. And I'm going to wait. Maybe I'll wait. I don't know what I'm going to do there. Anyone got any ideas who has finished a Dakota Hawk, which hole to use? And if you're doing it by plans, then I don't know if this comes completely cut and everything in the kit. I know that I just have to cut that out of all raw stock, and then I'm going to shine it up and put that together. That's it for that little portion. So that's what it looks like. Holes drilled through. I've got the 1 brace on there, and then the horn. On the other side, they just say to use washers, and they overlap, and on the plans it actually shows where you would grind those down so they would meet flush. And my question again has to be, well, why not just do a shim like I've done here for this side? It'll be aluminum and it won't be steel washers, but to me it would be a better solution spreading that load over a wider area. You're going to have to get probably a little longer bolts, but that's no problem. I've got a whole array of bolts. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll just take this exact same one, build one just like that, and put it on that side. Can anyone tell me why I shouldn't do that? All right. I got my little spacer done on that side, and got one done on that side as well. So that should help spread the load right across that entire area. And I think is better than just doing a couple washers on the one side, and on the other side, if you look at this plan, you actually have a spacer with less space than the actual elevator horn. So this spreads that load over that area, and that should work. Has anyone tried anodizing the aluminum instead of painting it with the primer, the self-etching primer? How does that work? Looks better, seems more permanent. Thoughts on that? On a completely different note, I'm gonna sell the Thorpe for anyone who's interested. And I made a video on that, and I don't know how people put it up here. I don't know if I'll do that. If you don't find it up here, you can look on my page and you'll find the video of that being sold. Why I'm saying that has nothing to do with selling it. It has to do with this. Thorpe's a 200-mile-an-hour plane, high performance. Here's my rudder. My rudder is as big as the rudder and vertical stabilizer on the Thorpe. The Thorpe rudder is only this little piece here, and the vertical stabilizer is this little piece there. My rudder alone is as big as the rudder on the Thorpe and a little bit of the rest of the tail fin there on the Thorpe. When you put it together on the plane, the rudder on the Dakota Hawk and the vertical stabilizer is much bigger than on the Thorpe. I just found that interesting. There's a lot more area there on this little plane that does 100 miles an hour versus the 200-mile-an-hour Speedster. But I guess this handles better at lower speeds. So there you go. I just found that interesting. When I was unboxing all this stuff, I was getting everything out and I put the plane together. You'll see in that other video. I was looking at this going, well, that's the rudder, and I'm thinking, is there more to it than that? Because there ain't much there. But interesting, I thought. Anyways,